This is the After Party. Your hosts are the Great Order and No White Guilt. The crown winner of last week is the one and only, the spectacular and marvelous gentleman, Mr. Bloom, financially gifting $100. Thank you so much, Mr. Bloom. Congratulations. In second place was the one and only Slots, ladies and gentlemen, $5. Congratulations to you as well, and thank you both from the bottom of our hearts. Financially gift on Entropy, which will be up in a moment at 15%, where you can also watch the stream and ask and vote on questions. Or you can financially gift on Cash App. You'll find both the URLs in the description below this video, which has become a lot prettier than you thought it would be since our lovely guest Hiraeth is showing off her lovely face. Jared and I, as you all know, evenly share the financial gifts with our guests on the After Party. Today, as I just mentioned, we have the one and only Hiraeth, many firsts in the white sympathetic spheres. This is a big one here. Hiraeth showing off her face for the very first time, and we are deeply grateful for that. Deeply grateful to have her on tap today, a very talented artist. Hiraeth, please introduce yourself to our esteemed community. Tell them where they can find you and your magnificent work, and then Mr. George will take us into the conversation.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Hiraeth, as he just said. Thank you. That was a great introduction. And I'm a singer-songwriter, and you can find me on Bandcamp, SoundCloud. I think it's like Hiraeth Music 9. If you search Hiraeth Music on YouTube, all of those links will come up in the About section as well. So that kind of makes it easier. Like Twitter and Odyssey and all sorts of other platforms. Trying to branch out a little bit. And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, welcome. And you were on our full show first time last May, but it doesn't hurt to kind of give a little overview before we get into the current album and talk about current happenings, especially because we get new people all the time. So hello, new people. If you're out there, even Wallflowers not saying hi in the chat yet. And as we often deal with, back then we had to do it on an alternate channel, and that always affects the live viewership a little bit, because Jason's channel was dealing with some strikes at the time. So before we get into the current album, Metamorphosis, and everything else going on right now, and anything we want to talk about right now, if you could just give us a little synopsis of how you got here, the first couple of albums, and when you started writing music, and when it kind of took the form and focus that it does now with your project as Hiraeth and the community that you're part of here.
Sure. So I kind of started learning guitar in my teenage years, roughly. And then I've been playing around with songwriting on and off since then, never really taking it seriously until about late 2018. And that's when I started writing music for like the Hiraeth project. And I just kind of started writing, and I didn't really know what I was doing at all. I didn't even know at the time if I was going to put it out anywhere. And then I eventually just decided to upload it onto YouTube and didn't expect to get any viewers. And then, you know, it gradually grew a little bit from there, which was awesome to have that kind of support. But the term Hiraeth, it's a Welsh word, and it's a homesickness for a place that could be from the past. It might be a place that doesn't actually exist yet. It could be like a dream kind of place, maybe something in the future that you're imagining. But that's what I kind of like about it, is it takes this new spin on the word nostalgia, and it's not just restricted to something in the past. It can actually be something that doesn't quite exist yet. So I kind of like how that gives you a broader spectrum to work with as far as feeling goes.
Yeah, definitely. I might want to talk more about that later. And for anyone interested, we spoke a lot about nostalgia and related subjects when Hiraeth was on with me and John Bruce Leonard on Learning in Public, the show that I do with him. So great episode if you want to check that out. It's from November of 2020. What about singing? Did you kind of start singing at the same time you were playing guitar a few years ago? Did one come first or the other?
I started singing first. Well, I've always loved to sing since I was really little, but I guess I didn't really think about, or I didn't start singing in front of people. Actually, I'm not really a performer, so I'm very stage fright. But I did sing in chorus when I was in middle school. So when I was like 11 or 12 years old, I started singing in chorus, and I did take vocal lessons for like 6 months or a year or something. And that was before I took guitar lessons for about a year and a half or so. And yeah, so I guess singing came first.
Yeah. And how did you find the whole scene that you're now in? How did that come to be?
Well, I don't really know. I guess I've been aware of things for a while, since like 2016, but I didn't start writing music and getting into that side of things until, like I said, 2018. And so when I started doing that, I just, would interact with people on Twitter, like Big Cat Kayla, and then she ended up subscribing to me, and Philosophicat and just other people were very supportive. And then I found White Art Collective and joined White Art Collective, and that's been just amazing. It's like home. So
That sense of Hiraeth you were looking for, maybe a little bit.
yeah, exactly. We're shaping it right now.
Exactly.
It's in the making. Yeah.
What about the Metamorphosis album itself? Before we talk about more specifics, just in general, is it? I know as a creative person myself, it's hard to talk about this stuff sometimes, but clearly there's a concept to it, which we'll get into a little bit in a moment. But it seems like it could relate to, like, there's a progression through it, like a growth through the album tracks. Does it relate to any kind of personal epiphanies or growth that you've been reflecting on over the last year when you were writing it?
Definitely. I mean, like, as far as listing something specific, I can't really say specifically, but I did write the whole album is put together in a way to where, in the lyrics, if I say something like I or me, I want it to be sort of interchangeable with we or us. So I want it to be able to apply to me or, the person listening as an individual. And then I also want it to be applied to our folk and our community as a whole, like in a greater macrocosmic sense. So I kind of did that. I did that on purpose because I do want people to be able to relate to it. And I think that layering meanings like that can be very interesting. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Jason froze for a second. So I didn't know if our stream was frozen. Are you all right, Jason?
No, we're good. The stream looks good over here. The
All
stream
right.
strength is good.
Yeah, I don't know if you.
No reason to see the urologist. We're still good.
Yeah, you froze again. I don't know if it's just my screen.
Oh, maybe it is.
Yeah. Anyway, these things happen here. Well, another general question as we're just kind of setting up the beginning. Again, I know it's tough to talk about, but general ways that you write, is any kinds of I don't even want to say method, because that sounds too structured, right? Because I know how this happens, how songwriting happens, and I've heard you talk about it other places as well. But of course, just to give you the floor on this, in all the work that you've done, you have 3 albums, so a nice body of work and a lot of collaborations as well. Are there general themes that you can sense about, like, how songs usually start and germinate, or where you draw inspiration from, how that all happens?
Well, I guess as far as shows, I think I mentioned it before. Last time I was on, I do generally start with like a simple guitar riff, and I build off of that. Not always, but that's usually how it starts. And then I'll add a vocal melody, and then I'll, basically sing gibberish over what I wrote with the guitar. And then I'll add the lyrics in towards the end of like the figuring out the song structure. And then I'll, tighten that up and build on it and stuff like that. But as far as drawing inspiration, that is actually a really tough question, because you would think it would be something simple, but it's not. And it does vary from song to song. So I guess some songs come easier than others. Some songs just seem to sort of flow out of you, and you can write them in like a day or two. And then after that, it's all just mixing and mastering that takes up all the time. And then other times, there are songs that actually take a while to compose. And a good example of this is Glimmer on my album. That one I started with just this simple guitar picking, and I just kind of wasn't really sure what I was doing with it. And I just gradually built on it. And that's why it has this sort of cinematic buildup towards the end. And that was something that just it was a gradual thing. It didn't just come to me like, a spark or a spur of the moment sort of thing, like some songs do. So I guess it would depend on the song, but I do draw inspiration from, people around me, people in our community, from within, and from just taking walks outside, which might sound weird, but I love taking night walks, for instance, and looking up and all the stars in the sky and that sort of thing. And it's actually really inspiring. It just gives you time to reflect and think about things, and maybe decide on how you want to say what it is you need to say, sort of thing.
Yeah. That movement can be important to get out and move around when you're creating something. Were there any antecedents to writing lyrics? Did you ever do poetry or free writing before you were writing songs when you were younger?
I'm trying to think. I'm like, I wrote random stuff. I don't know if I would have called it poems. It was more of like random stanzas that were never finished, just kind of inconsistent, I guess. Like I'm thinking more back in school when I was probably supposed to be taking notes on whatever we were learning. And I was like, I kind of want to write something else. And so I just daydream and start writing stuff like that. But I love poetry. I can't really call myself a poet though, but I think that it can be interchangeable with lyrics. So I do appreciate poetry a lot, for sure. There's something oh, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's something you can convey. Words and language in general is a really interesting thing. And I think that when you're writing in poetry, you can convey things in a different way than you can if you're writing a novel or, a nonfiction article or book or something. Poetry does give you a little bit more of a broad, like where you can actually layer meanings and stuff. Whereas I think that you can't really do that with novels or book writing,
It's a little more evocative on the whole. I'd agree. On that note, I'll give you a question that I've been asked. So I'm similar, where a lot of the melody kind of starts as gibberish, and it's like the musicality is there first, and then you structure it with actual words later on. Do you find that limits you? Is that a tough thing there's only so many words that can fit in that, or does that form actually kind of free you up? Like, do you ever feel stifled and it's difficult to say what you want to say, or does it all kind of, I guess, congeal and work out in the end?
Maybe a little bit of both, honestly, because it can be a little stifling in this sense that you thought you could fit this many words in a line, and you come to find out when you're actually trying to sing it that, wow, it actually needs to be reduced to way less amount of words in this one line, because that's too many words. And it just like, it breaks up the flow of things or something. So I think it's like trying to convey what you want to say in in fewer words, that can be a little tricky sometimes, especially. And then even just the ending, sometimes the ending word of a line, it needs to have a certain sound, like an ah, e, I, or, and it's like, you'll write a line that you feel like is really good. And then you're like, oh man, it doesn't have that vowel sound that just feels right. So then you kind of have to, it's a little stifling in that sense. You have to figure it out, but it's kind of fun. I think that part of it's fun. It's sort of like a puzzle that you need to figure out, because you have this creative drive in you, and you need to say something. So it's a matter of how do you translate that in a way that works, that's effective, that just feels right to you,
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine, just if I could really quickly, I would imagine that there's the issue of when you are, I mean, you could have sentences where you have to truncate the whole sentence. You have to shrink the whole sentence, and then you have the issue of accidentally sending the wrong message or the wrong meaning with the sentence. Have you ever struggled with that, as coming to a place where the sentence has to be shorter, it's got to end with a certain sound, and then you find a way that it works beautifully, but maybe it is sending the wrong message, or leading people, or maybe not sending the message that you wanted, maybe sending no message at all? Have you had issues like that developing music?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that, a lot of music or lyrics can be open to interpretation, but it's like it is a matter of, you feel like sometimes you're dumbing it down, and you're like, is this, and then I'm like, is this grammatically correct? So even this like librarian part or this editor in me is like, is this grammatically correct? Does this even make sense? Like if you're reading these lyrics. So I think that does play a part in it. But yeah, I mean, I think you don't want to lose that meaning. And sometimes if you have to shorten it too much, it can be a little bit restrictive. You don't want to dumb it down too much to where it could be misinterpreted. So there's sometimes where I've had to just, there's a line I really like, but it's just not working. And even breaking it down, it's just not working. So I have to find a different way to say this particular thing that this line is saying. And then I'm like, scratch that. I have to rewrite that line and make it work. And like I said, some songs, it's not like that. It just flows out of you. It comes easy, and every single line is just there. It works. But unfortunately, not every song is like that, because that would be really nice if it were.
Yeah. Well, we definitely have some artists in the chat as well. I see For Null, I see Nullus, speaking of poets, and there's probably some others. I wasn't able to see all the chat. I try to keep my attention mostly on the guest, but there are, especially when the show starts, like a few things to do and be checking everything and looking at the chat. And anyone, I said in the chat too, please get your questions in. People are always interested to hear from you, Hiraeth, and about people's creative process in general, and people are excited about the new album. But speaking of another friend and another artist, Jeff, our friend Jeff Winston, of course, head of the White Art Collective, the mastermind behind it. I remember when I watched the special stream that you guys did, I guess about 2 weeks ago at this point, right? When Metamorphosis debuted?
Yep, it was the 19th of February. So
I think it's 2 weeks back from tomorrow night, or almost to 2 weeks. I know it was a Saturday night. He said he asked you about, no. I think it was a Friday, actually. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It was a Friday. It was a Friday because it was the day before the after party 3-year anniversary. That's right. So yeah, it's exactly 2 weeks ago. And is that right? Maybe 3. I don't know, guys.
I think it might be.
It might be 3. Don't hold me to this. I'm in stream brain right now. The most important thing is talking to Hiraeth. So let's talk to Hiraeth. So it doesn't matter, 2-3 weeks. We'll figure it out after the fact. I remember you saying so this is a bit of a concept album, a little different than your first 2 albums. And you think of concept albums as novels as opposed to a collection of short stories, where that's what most albums are. There's a little more of a through line. So we're very curious to hear, of course, what started that idea and what some of the themes are behind Metamorphosis.
Yeah, of course. Well, a couple of different things started the idea. I guess a lot of it is kind of those like rabbit holes of thought that you can go through, or just a train of thought, a spiral of thought, if you will. So first I was thinking about like Spengler's concept, Oswald Spengler, of culture being like a living organism, and how with every life cycle there's a gestation period. And this got me thinking about just like, well, not to sound dark, but like the death of civilizations and how we view death among a modern lens. And that, and then seeing a lot of people getting sort of black-pilled or hopeless in our community, I wanted to show that I don't believe that's where we're at. I think that we're just in this weird transition phase. I think we're in a phase where we just need to transform. And so I wanted to sort of express that transformation in a way that expresses like death and rebirth in one life cycle. And metamorphosis was sort of the perfect concept for that, because as soon as the caterpillar, dies, basically, in a sense, it's reborn as a butterfly, which is just a beautiful thing. And I think that that's sort of where we're at. We're in that chrysalis phase where it seems dark and like the end is near, but it's not. It's this is the time to build on our strengths and to to transform into something, like it basically fulfill our purpose, I think.
Yes,
If that makes any sense.
we talk a lot about that here, don't we, Jason? You have these 4 instars as well. When I first saw instar, I thought it was something maybe astrological. I had no idea that that's actually the name of these different phases. We got a little biology lesson here. We got the different phases that the caterpillar goes through before it becomes the butterfly. And you were explaining how there's only one certain type that does a cocoon. It's actually the word you just used, chrysalis, for most of them. So those kind of dot the album. And there's a progression through that as well, especially on that 4th one when you do the spoken word thing. I like that one a lot. It kind of brings it all together. But what about, it sounded like you had some songs that you'd written prior and then you figured could fit in, and then other songs you specifically wrote for it once the concepts took more form in your mind. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, let's see. So Quarantine and We Are the West are 2 that I definitely wrote prior to coming up with the concept, but I still felt like they worked in a way. And I think that Quarantine, well, that was more, speaking back to what we were talking about earlier, that was definitely more of a personal song, because last year during lockdowns, I was just getting really frustrated. I wanted to go outside. I wanted to I felt like, you feel claustrophobic. You're like, I can't breathe. I can't talk to people. And when I do go see people, I have to wear a mask. So we can't even smile at each other, except for with our eyes. And that's about it.
Is that what's behind you revealing your face today? It's just like, if you have to even be in a mask outside, that's like, damn it, on a stream, I'm going to take off any kind of mask.
Well, I should say yes, but not exactly. I just think that when you're showing your face and you're on video, it's a bit more relatable and it makes things a bit more real. Not that I have anything against staying anonymous, because I understand why people do that, but I do think that it helps people to connect with you, or just connect in general, and it does seem more real. It's like chatting with somebody online that you have no idea what they look like or anything about them other than what they tell you, versus hanging out with somebody in person. It's very different. There's 2 very different things.
This was kind of a slow reveal, because I remember back on our Halloween special, you appeared on that multi-guest show. You had a slot, and I think you did the IMAX. No, I think you did like a kind of a COVID mask, but with like
it was like the skull mask. Yeah.
Skull smile. So you covered the bottom of your face. Was that the first time? Was that the first time you appeared on camera at all in general, or had you appeared prior to that?
I think so. I think that was the first time. Yeah.
Man, Jason, we're very blessed here. You know, we do a lot of firsts here on tap. So it's kind of like we got these pieces, and then other times you did the eye mask. So it's like we saw the bottom of your face, or it's the top of
Yeah.
your face. So kind of composite. I could kind of tell what you look like. Like, I'm not surprised because I've
Yeah.
seen all the pieces just at different times. Kind
Right,
of like
right.
glitch art, Hiraeth, and now she's coming to focus. So yeah, it kind of bounced back.
I want to quickly, Jared, just quickly, I just want to say
go
that,
ahead, please.
Jared and I are deeply honored. We've had so many firsts, and this has been such a meaningful endeavor, the after party, over the years now. And as you all know, those who have been with us, the most of the ride, some of the ride, all of the ride so far, it's very humbling, and we are honored to have Hiraeth choose TAP to unmask herself in entirety for us, and it's a really wonderful thing. So we thank you deeply for that. Mr. George and I, we didn't even know that was going to be. She joined backstage, and I thought, my gosh, who's that young lady? Who's that pretty young lady? When's Hiraeth going to show up in a cape and a mask and a hood, or an Iron Maiden, or whatever it might be that she's going to be wearing this interview? But it's lovely. So we thank you so very much. And folks, when you talk about today's show, we're going to be talking obviously about, as we have been so far, Hiraeth's music, her artistic abilities, and the service to white well-being that she makes with those efforts and abilities and talents and training. And we're deeply grateful for all of that. Make sure you mention when you talk to folks that, hey, Hiraeth was unmasked. She came without anything on her face to tap, and it was the first time, and there are many firsts on tap. Jared, I don't think a single other I've ever heard, and Jared and I did this very early on, we're also innovative here on tap. We do a lot of things that are nobody else has done before, novel things. Jared and I actually, I think it was 2 years ago now, took our show on the road, and we did the after party on another content producer's YouTube channel. Of course, that was Hiraeth, and I haven't seen anybody else ever do that. So if somebody should get points for creativity, for being the kind of warm, inviting, comforting place where people can reveal things like their pretty face for the first time, or some folks, you'll have to look back and see that maybe they revealed some things about their history that aren't exactly pretty things, but came clean with some, and had some courage to come clean with some things, and we're grateful and honored by those individuals and what they felt that they could reveal with us, with our community. Share these sorts of things, because we need to bring the best of the best, the best of the West into our circles here. And TAP is absolutely at the pinnacle of service to white well-being. Very grateful for you all for being here. And we'll jump right back into this conversation. But I felt it was important to say, set down a mile marker on our road from here to the recovery of our destiny. Many things to look at along the way. And remember, it's not just the destiny that you're striving for, because it's the journey as well. But I'll pass it back, Mr. George.
Yes, that was your public service announcement from TAP. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the stream. Jason, before we get more into the album itself, did you have any questions about, because it's always interesting to, like, you ask some really novel questions I wouldn't think of, because you not being a musician, come up with some interesting questions, like what you interviewed Luke Mason about with his big new song for Prometheus Rising on Sunday, which was amazing. Anyone who hasn't heard it yet really has to go check that out. But anything that hasn't been addressed yet that kind of pops out to your mind?
Yeah, well, as somebody who cannot play music, who's not a musician, something comes to mind that I was thinking about asking Hiraeth, and that is, have you had a scenario, and this is also a bit of a tip to people who are already sort of creative individuals, or who want to be creative. First of all, you know that to tap into more of that creativity that you have latent within you, you have to go free. You have to address the mean pathogens that are in your way. Doesn't matter how pretty the road looks beyond the roadblock. You can't get there without getting over the roadblock. So one of the things that you could do, Hiraeth mentioned it earlier, and that is to get out and take a walk. It's the motion that the human animal engages in, which is perceived to bring the organism into new environments, and that kind of clicks on the brain, because you have to be more aware and astute entering new environments when in more primitive states, because you don't know if there's going to be trouble there, predators, opportunities, and that sort of thing. So taking a walk is magnificent for stimulating the mind, stimulating creativity. And so my question is, have you had scenarios as a musician, not necessarily on this album, but certainly on this album, if there is the case of it, where you have had a chunk maybe of music that maybe you picked up 10 years ago, maybe it was another song, you thought this was wonderful, maybe you even forgot about it. And then as you were maybe taking your walk, maybe thinking about the song, that piece, whatever it was, lyrics, rhythm, whatever the different verbiages for the different pieces of music, sort of came back to you. You thought maybe this might be useful in some way. I can manipulate it a little bit, set it aside, and then worked with your music and found whatever song or songs, worked with your music and then found that, hey, this piece kind of fits perfectly in with something that I created, as though your mind were piecing it all together all along, and you were kind of discovering that your mind was piecing it together. Have you ever had that experience? And if so, please share.
In a sense. So last summer I took a trip to the mountains, which was awesome. And I decided to do some field recording, which I just, you take a small recorder and you record a sound out in nature or whatever. And so one of the sounds in like the first song, for instance, is just, it's like a swoosh sound. And that's actually me spinning fire, which is something I don't do anymore. It's something I haven't done in a long time, but I forget how it came up, but it came up in one of like the White Art Collective chats. And I was like, man, but that sound is really cool. And I think it was Lord Wolfshield who was like, you should record the sound and put it in a song. And I was like, okay, maybe I should. And so I actually picked up my poi, which, is the things you light on fire. And I recorded that while I was in the mountains, because I knew there wouldn't be cars and things going by to mess up the recording of it. So I added that in there. And then as far as like old songs, there was a song that I had started writing, or I had kind of written, I guess, in 2018 during the first album was being written. And it's like I said everything I wanted to say with it after recording it, but there was only one verse basically. And I didn't really have anything else to add to it. But I still really liked it. So I actually took that, and the original title that I had picked for that, even in the beginning of writing that song, was Rekindle. And that ends up being the last song on the album. What I did was I reversed it and I reworked it a little bit. I did some surgery and pieced it together in a way. And then I also added a little bit of synth on top of it. And then I reversed it in the beginning, and then it's not reversed the second halfway through. So you get to hear both halves. And if you look at the sound file, like on SoundCloud or something, it's actually the shape of a butterfly, which it started to turn out that way. And I was like, well, this actually works perfectly. It's like, it's fate. It's meant to be. So the combination of those things, I would probably answer your question, I think.
Yeah, I think it does.
Those things just come together like that. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I'm glad it's a butterfly. Do you have a favorite butterfly? Not Mothra. Do you have a favorite butterfly?
Not really. I love them all. The ones that I've seen. There's some really cool moths too, but yes. Yeah, and that's how I learned that the word cocoon actually only comes from one type of moth, and it's the kind it's a silk moth. So I was like, wow.
What's the difference with chrysalis? Biology lesson for a second.
Yeah, chrysalis that's more attributed to butterflies, but a chrysalis is also formed by moths that don't do the silk. So a cocoon is made from silk, basically. Mm-hmm. And there's only a specific type. Oh, go on.
Oh no, please finish.
I was just going to say there's only a specific type of moth that does that.
I see. Well, and connotatively, it of course means a transformation phase, not a place. A lot of people get that wrong. Like they think it's the place that they're in rather than the phase that they're in, the transformation phase. But What I do want to really quickly ask is, if you think it'd be a good idea, Jared, we could ask Hiraeth about the song Found specifically, and if she has any thoughts on that, and then we could play about 60 seconds or so of that to give folks a taste of really how wonderful this album and this music really is. Mr. George?
Yeah. Let's keep people teased for 1 minute on that. I just have a couple quick questions on what was just said. Did you post a picture of you spitting the fire? Because I seem to remember that from somewhere on social media.
I didn't actually, but yeah,
Why
I
do
mean,
feel like I saw, that's weird. That's really weird. When I heard you mention that to Jeff, I was like, I think she's posted that on Instagram or something. I could swear I saw you, like, maybe I'm confusing with someone else, with like fire in the woods or the blurry picture. Huh. Well, on the second point, that's very cool. And Jason, yeah, it gets to what you were saying. The fact that that last track, which I really like, Rekindle, by the way,
thank you.
that first half, how you reverse it, there's still like this pulse and this melody. It's not just like you're reversing it just for the sake of it. It actually, there is a musicality to it, and it kind of draws you in. It's almost like a vortex drawing you in. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. I want to relate that to like the whole idea of nostalgia when we get a little more philosophical. But the serendipity, right? As much as you were saying, sometimes you have to struggle to make all the pieces fit in a song, putting that jigsaw puzzle together. Isn't it amazing how sometimes there's these surprises? I mean, your album's called Metamorphosis, and the last track, because you did the first half of the song is reversed, and then there's a pause, and then the second half of the song is in the regular order. So when you look at the waveform, it looks like a butterfly. I mean, you can't plan stuff like that, but you get these little taps on the shoulder sometimes telling you you're doing the right thing. You know, you're following your intuition, and that those magic moments, just, there's no way to explain them, but there's something to relish along the way, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. It's just yeah, like you said, it's a tap on the shoulder. It's like your muse is telling you, yes, this is the right path. Like, you did the right thing here. If you were ever in question, here's your answer, or here's a little nudge telling you that this was meant to be, sort of thing. So
it's really incredible. I love that. But anyway, Jason, if you have Found queued up, maybe you can play that, and then we'll talk a little bit about that and more about the album. All right, so you paused it just as you're starting to rock out a little bit more, but we heard Jeff Winston again of White Art Collective on electric bass. You had electric guitar there. Definitely curious to hear about some new elements on the album. Like you said, there were field recordings, spoken word we mentioned. There we heard electric bass. There's distorted guitar. I heard you doing more with vocal production. There's a little piano piece that you do on it as well. So was any of that planned? Like, were you kind of itching to just try new things after getting more acquainted with some of the recording process from your first albums, or did they just kind of happen spontaneously again?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a bit of both. Well, I was using two different programs. I was using Reaper and Studio One, and then I switched to I wanted to just do Studio One with recording and mixing everything. And I got like this orchestra library, and there's all these built-in instruments that are kind of cool with that, presets I like. So I was definitely itching to explore that and try some new things there. And with found the electric guitar, that was sort of very spur of the moment. I was like, this just needs something else. What should I do? And then I was like, I think it needs like this, like, oomph, like once this kicks in. And so I just recorded that electric part just to see what it sounded like. And I really liked it. And I let Jeff listen to the mix, and he was like, it's good, but I think it needs some bass. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, I could, if you want, I could play some bass for you, or I could record some. And I was like, yes, please. That'd be fantastic. Because I don't have a bass, and I'm not a bass player. So it would have just been me like going along exactly with the guitar on the MIDI keyboard that I have. It wouldn't have sounded the same. So.
But we've learned you do have an electric guitar.
Yes, I do.
I've
had that. Yeah, I've had that guitar for a while. It's actually a Fender Squire, so it's supposed to be it's like the knockoff of the Jaguar. I saw it in that famous picture of Kurt Cobain with the black, the black Jaguar he has, and I was like, that is an awesome looking guitar. And yeah. So
it wasn't just running the acoustic through and like putting it through amps and making it sound like an electric. You have an electric guitar, so we might hear more. We might hear more electric guitar in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just might.
You just might, folks. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Before we go on too, I wanted to ask with the instar. So again, those levels, those stages, those phases, as Jason said, of the metamorphosis of the caterpillar into the butterfly.
Yes.
Is there a significance where is that what a butterfly goes through as well, or were there just 4 statements you wanted to make interspersed through the album? Is there a significance to that at all as one of the themes tying it together?
Well, yeah, in nature, metamorphosis, or the instars, it's when a caterpillar molts and it just constantly eats, and then it molts and sheds its skin and grows bigger with each phase, which is called an instar. And at the end of the 4th instar, it forms its chrysalis, where it it encloaks itself in this weird substance, and it pretty much dissolves all of its organs and everything, and it reforms into what becomes the butterfly, which is kind of neat. It sounds painful too, but it's a natural process, so it's really interesting. And I think that it's a really good metaphor for everything we're going through right now. So the instars are kind of like bridges between songs. They're mini songs, and each of them has a specific message. The first one doesn't have any lyrics, but it's got more of this I'm just trucking along, I'm going to power through this, because it's the first instar. And the second one is the self, which is recognizing the power that you have as an individual. And then the third one is conjunction, and that's the fact that even though you're a whole individual, you're still part of something greater. And it's kind of a play on the masculine and feminine principles too. Of, you're one half to a whole, that we complete each other. And then the 4th instar is Epiphany, and that ultimately just represents that struggle isn't easy by the very definition of it, but it's sometimes necessary because it can awaken something within you, and it can strengthen you in the long run. So,
and was it situated? Did you set it up where every time we hear an instar on the album, the songs that then follow that particular instar, do you consider that those songs like a theme in the stage of the development? Or is it that?
Kind of, yeah. Because, well, it's sort of like, I imagine if you're like talking, if you're like having a conversation with yourself in a way, and you're like you have that like the one side of the conscience or whatever, and the other side where it's like the angel and the devil. One's like, no, this is bad, or everything's wrong, or it's like the black pillar, that's like your little devil. And then you have your angel, which is telling you like, this is meant to be this way. It's okay. Like, you're going to pull through this. This is actually what strengthens you. And so I kind of play on that, because after the fourth instar, it comes to chrysalis. And that's really the song that it sounds sad in the beginning, but towards the end, it's supposed to show that what we think is being surrounded by darkness is actually just us transforming and becoming like our, I guess, harnessing our full potential so that we can metamorphosize into something greater than what we have been. And it's just about growth, and, overall. Oh, you're muted, Jared.
You're muted, brother.
I'm a professional, everybody. Hello.
It definitely happens.
Going on that, let's go a little more on that, and then everyone listening definitely start to get questions in, if you have any, about Hiraeth's process and the album and anything else. Is one more artistic thing, and then we can talk a little about community too. I know you have collaborations, and it's never a bad time to talk about community, right? And how we all help. But I do have a question. I know it's kind of a big philosophical one, so forgive me, but I have to get one in. Is I mentioned the backwards audio reminds me of this vortex. It kind of pulls you in, and it relates again to this theme that comes up a lot whenever we speak. I mentioned when you were on the show with John and I, we really focused on this, and you put this little nugget in the beginning of today's show that is perfect, and it really, I really relate to it myself, in that we think of nostalgia as this longing for the past, and there's a lot of talk, a lot of people kind of glorify these elements of the past, and it's certainly great to look back and kind of mine ideals or aesthetics or ways of life that are beautiful and salubrious and edifying and would work in any context. Of course, we have to be careful not to glorify the past or kind of put this sheen on it and, act like everything was perfect. And then there's also this, as you mentioned, there's this drive for this future. We're always thinking about, well, is there a better tomorrow just around the next corner, just over the horizon? And I know, like, when we've spoken about this, Hiraeth, and you go into a little bit of a deeper level, like both of these longings, the way I would put it is that those drives for either this idealized past or future, what it's really making, like the real essence of it, is that we want a full experience of the present moment. And as painful as it can be, this is the life we have. This is where we are. This is the day and age we've been born into. And through all of these challenges and pains, there's still, this sweetness to, we're the only people who, we're the ones who are here for this moment. It relates, I think, a bit to the album itself, your themes, metamorphosis and change. But I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that too. If you kind of have that concept, I don't want to, of course, put words in your mouth. I want to hear however you conceive of it, but that this idea that the longing for a past and the hope for a future, that we can kind of collapse these things into each other and kind of take that drive and make sure that the drive is making us live a fulfilling life now and be present now. Because again, if we suss out the drive and the instinct and we funnel it into the present, that could be good. If we totally and solely live for the past or live for this imagined future, I think that actually could be very harmful.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I think you hit the nail on the head there with a lot of things. Well, first off, I'll just say that the backwards guitar in the album, it does represent introspection in a sense of, so that vortex or feeling like you're being pulled in. It's like looking within yourself, finding that inner sun or that inner fire, and harnessing that to do something constructive or creative, and then using that sun to radiate outward into the world. And to me, that's just a really one way of expressing that with the backwards guitar and stuff, and the way that I placed it, purposefully to try to feel like you're being pulled by a string almost, like pulled along in a way. And I agree. I think that, well, it's good to be inspired by the past, of course, and our ancestors set the bar very high with some just incredible, amazing art and music. But that was also very relevant to that time period. So while it's amazing and beautiful and it's still a part of us, it's something that it's not necessarily like you can connect with it, but it's not of the modern time. And so I think that it's a little harder for a lot of people to relate to on another level. And it's, so you don't want to be stuck in the past, and you don't want to be too stuck in the future either. It's good to think about the future, obviously, but I think it's important to try to connect with people that are in the time that we're in, because we're all here, in my opinion, we're all here for a reason. And we need to try to find ways to connect. And being stuck there in the past it can be unhealthy in a sense, because, and then, as an artist, I think, well, wow, if it took us like 200 years to realize how amazing these other artists and musicians were, does that mean that the efforts we're all putting in is going to be even recognized for 200 years, if it's recognized at all, So I think it is important to see the effort that people are putting into
we are good at delaying gratification.
Not that I'm some Mozart or anything, because I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, and those things, like I said, they do set a bar. So they do inspire you to want to reach a certain level of potential, but how that manifests is going to be very different in modern times than it was then. So it's not going to sound the same. Maybe, there are exceptions to that rule, but I think generally speaking, people, if they're just creating something in this day and age, it's going to sound different from that, unless that's like their expertise. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that too. And that's a good segue into the other thing that I said about community. So as we mentioned, you have a lot of collaborations on this album. You've been known for doing a lot of collaborations in the past, even prior to this album. And I know you and Jeff are on sometimes, and you're very, very active in the whole scene, the art scene. So just any thoughts, anything we want to use this opportunity as we celebrate your new album, just to reflect on community, anything going on you want to highlight, just kind of an open, not a specific question, but I just want to open the floor on that topic. And again, anyone in the chat, if you have any comments on community and our beautiful community here, or any questions for Hiraeth about her album, please do get them in now, because we're getting into that final phase of our show. We're getting into the fourth instar.
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot I could say about community building. Personally, I've talked to Jeff a lot about this lately, the founder and head of White Art Collective. So he's very knowledgeable in this community building sense, but I think that it's time to take a lot of that to the next level. And I think a good way to do that is through collaboration, like developing new skills or utilizing existing skills, by contributing those skills to the greater cause and working with people also in collaboration. Like, I think the end goal is, obviously we would like to own our own platforms. With all the censorship going on, we want to have our own platforms. And in order to do that, we need web designers, we need web development, like tech people. And I know that we have all different types of people in our community. It's like, I think maybe they're just being a little shy about their skills or something. I don't know. But don't be shy. We need you. Please contribute if you can. And marketing and promotion is another one. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to show my face here and now, is because you and Jason have always been very supportive of us artists, and you've given us lots of praise and promotion when I just seemed like, other people weren't seeing us. And so that just means a lot to all of us, because when you're just an independent artist, especially in the dissident sphere, it feels like it's nearly impossible to get people to listen to your stuff in the first place. And so having that support means a lot. And there's some things that I would like to do moving forward, just with spare time for marketing and promotion, because we have some really amazing writers in the community, like Jason and you, Jared. And then we have like Mark Collette, who's written a book. And I feel like a lot of people know him as the head of PWR and Patriotic Alternative, but a lot of people probably don't even know that he wrote a book and that he actually gives it away for free,
Yeah, no.
And Josh Neal just came out with a book and stuff. So I think it would be really cool to have different writers come up with maybe their favorite passage from one of their books, or something that's a good standalone passage. And I could, if they wanted to read it, they could, or I could read it and then make a short, like 2-minute video with, images or video or stuff in the public domain, and then add some cinematic, subtle backing music that fits the theme of whatever it is the passage is talking about. And it would be a really good way to promote and advertise for some of these really great writers that exist in the now, in modern times, that I feel like need more attention, because there were many great writers in the past, but I think focusing, like we were saying, too much on the past, it makes it so where people tend to overlook the things that are right in front of you. And there are plenty of artists and writers doing amazing things in our community that need support. So that's my rant on that.
So, yeah, kindling that fire, building the energy more. So we might hear Hiraeth spoken word. We might hear, I should say, voiceover artist. You might be doing some readings from books.
I would love to do something short, because I think that if you think like movie trailers, for instance, something like that, but with maybe writing of writers in our sphere and their books or a passage, and adding that visual and musical element can stick in people's minds a little bit more than a Twitter post or something. Yeah. Where those are helpful, but I think that something like this might actually just stick to where they're like, wow, what was that? What was that about? I need to figure out what this was from. And then they're like, oh, that was a book. Where is this book? Where can I buy it? Things like that. And it's like, and we believe in everything that we're promoting. So that makes a difference too. So I think that it would just be a more creative project to help boost the signal, if you will. Yeah.
I definitely like the direction you're going in there. I've thought about that a bit myself, because it's basically a funnel where if there's a big end product, like a book that takes a time investment for someone to buy that book and read the whole thing, you want maybe 2 or 3 things to lead people to it, like the kind of video that you're talking about, or even a live stream. We make clips from live streams, but then you could even make a clip of the clip and put, how Twitter only allows you to do like a 2-minute, 20-second video. That's their limit for how long a video could be when it's actually embedded in a Twitter post. You can actually watch it on Twitter. Like, even if you have a 10-minute clip of a juicy part from a stream, you could take like 2 minutes of that and make like a mini clip of the clip, put it on Twitter, and it's kind of a funnel. One thing leads you to the next, what I mentioned at the beginning of the show with Luke Mason, Imminent Rain, doing this song with Groundhog Fury, who's an amazing artist that's done cover art for Jason's books. They collaborated on this video. I know you were in the premiere. We were both there, Hiraeth. So
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was so well done. And that's the kind of thing that leads and gets people interested, like you were saying. And wait, someone's writing a song and these are cool images. And then, wait, this is from a book and it's like this original myth. What is that about? So I really like that idea. I really like your idea too of reading 2 minutes from someone's book, different books and stories, and then putting images.
But like little creative things like that, or well, when Imminent Rain's case, that's not little. He's was very epic, but there can be little ways, little creative things you can do that sets it apart from just a simple post. And I think that Imminent Rain has done a really good job of that. Same with Fornull. He's done an amazing job with promoting Prometheus Rising. And then if we're speaking of just posts, Althea Promethea she's like a powerhouse when it comes to promoting stuff on different platforms. She's amazing. That's like something she's just really excels at.
Yeah, there are people who that's their thing. Yeah, they're really good at maybe like repurposing images. Maybe not. I mean, just a straight retweet is fine. We appreciate all of it, but sometimes people kind of repurpose their own images, do their own little spin, and then promote a show or promote a video. And then what you said too, I know it's not a new idea. My understanding is that maybe there are some tech people slowly being organized, and we're trying things. But I know it's come up with Jeff too, late last year. But what you were motioning towards too, in like aggregator sites, where there's more of like, if you want to know all the books, here it is. Or there's some people doing stream schedules. I know there's a few Telegram channels that do that. I was recently asked by someone about that.
Directories, sort of.
Yeah, there's more people taking initiative to that kind of thing. Is maybe that's your talent. You have a good organizational mind, and you're passionate about making sure that things don't slip through the cracks. Because I think this person, now that I'm thinking of it, said to me, it's annoying. Sometimes I miss a stream. I don't get the update. Obviously, we're shadow banned, and the big tech media platforms play a lot of games with us. So working ways around that and making sure that we have these organs of media where we blast out like, hey, this is what's going on. There's so much more to be done with that too. So definitely saying that for anyone listening in the chat or in replay, there's
and if I could add
a lot to be done there.
I'm sorry, if I could add one last thing or a few last things about promotion. I do have some product placement going on. I've got a Skinless Frank t-shirt on, which is a really great artist in our community. I suggest checking him out. And then I also have some water in a new mug that I just recently got, which is Grandma's Howlers. And I did have some of that tea earlier. It was great. And I know that Sam was on the last Tap episode, and that was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. And then one last thing, White Art Collective is going to be doing an art culture episode at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight with Steak Fry, awesome musician. And he's going to be interviewed by Jack White and Lord Wolfshield. Sorry, that's all I had to say about promoting.
It was in the chat. No, I was going to say, Jason, you should play some like cheesy music in the background, and Hiraeth be like, and now we have this. It's like an old infomercial. Maybe you should have like the tea mug spinning around on this.
It's like, there you go.
If you buy now, we'll throw in a second one for free. Absolutely no cost to you.
Turn it into an infomercial. Oh no. But the whole thing is we promote, we're all promoting a positive message, and it's worth supporting. So it's definitely worth it. Not like the crap you see on TV.
Yeah, I mean, this is a culture, so it's all people saying in the chat, we have to inform each other, entertain each other, inspire each other. All
absolutely
of that. Mr. Köhne, do we have any?
We have questions. We have financial gifts. I did want to mention that we have Based Guitarist has actually been working on a social media website, and I think he's sent me a message recently. I have to look at it soon. That he said that it's first stage of being up and running is they've gotten to that point, and he said that unlike all of these other platforms that have cheated against me, he will cheat in my favor. So if I have an account on that platform. So I like the sound of that. That'll be up running, I get, hopefully soon. And we'll look forward to that. We've shared it on Going Free before, the URL for it. I'll have to find it. We can share it again. I'm going to jump to Groundhog Fury's first question, and we'll get to some of these financial gifts and any other questions we have. Then we're going to be tapping out, folks, and maybe we'll do something special. Like as we tap out, we'll actually in the show after we three leave with some of the rest of that rocking part of that song that we ended up missing. But Groundhog Fury asked the question about you've had of Hiraeth, you've had Emily on one of your tracks. Will you reciprocate and be on one of her tracks?
It's a good question. Well, if she asked me to, I would have to listen to what the track was, and if it's something I feel like I could, live up to, then of course I would love to do that. But it just depends, because sometimes you get presented with something that just isn't, it's like you maybe try to sing to it and it just doesn't fit your voice, or it doesn't work out. But yeah, I mean, if she sent me something and was like, can you sing on this? And it's something that I felt I could do, then I would absolutely do that. Yeah.
There you have it. And now first financial gift is $5 from the one and only great warrior servant to White Wellbeing, Slots, financially gifting $5. And he writes with those $5 to White Wellbeing. The imagery of childhood girls really stood out to me in your music video of Breakthrough. Did the inclusion of that have any particular meaning for you, Hiraeth?
I guess I was looking for footage that was in the public domain, so it had to be within that criteria. That was the first video I've made, piecing things together. So it took me pretty much a full day of digging through archives to find proper imagery. And I think it's more of that I was just conveying a feeling that it's hard to express through, explaining with words. But I think there's two kids that are doing Ring Around the Rosie, or pulling each other's arms, and it's the lyrics are can't resist the tension. And it's kind of like we're just being tossed into this almost with this childlike mentality. We don't really know what's going on. And then we come to awaken to the fact that things are the way that they are, and trying to pull through all that and break through the other side. So I think that the childlike mentality or the innocence, I guess is a better way to put it, of just being born into this world and then realizing that it's not anything that you thought it might be or that you thought it would be, and then trying to just use that to strengthen you and to pull through in some other way, and then changing your view on things, I guess, and moving forward. If that makes any sense, hopefully.
That's a splendid answer. And in fact, it is analogous to, identical to what I did in Born Guilty, when I have those solo scenes, vignettes, where I'm with you, the reader. And in some cases, I am explaining something to you about your surrounding, but I also provide artistic sketches about the environment, so as though you were seeing in a dreamlike fashion the room, so conveying the meaning both with the spoken word but also with imagery, and then the two balancing and playing off of each other. So it sounds like it's exactly the same kind of thing. Great answer. We have the great Yiz. Sir?
I just wanted people to know, I'm sorry that I put the Luke Mason and Groundhog Fury video in the chat, and I'll do it again in a moment as well, because people were asking about it.
Oh my gosh, they're gonna be over the moon when they see how magnificent it is.
It's so professional. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And we did have a question about Prometheus. It's Prometheus Rising, Take Back Your Destiny. It is a mythopoetic tale that I authored. Yiz the Eunuch, financially gifting $3, another rising star doing magnificent work. Thank you so much for that financial gift to White Wellbeing. I'm so thankful for all the talented creators in the white positive sphere. Passionate young artists like Hiraeth fill me with a genuine hope for the future of our people. Hail the great Hiraeth. Well, thank you so much for that, Yiz. Hiraeth, did you have anything to say in response?
Thank you, Yiz. You're doing amazing work too, and very grateful and lucky to have you as well. So thank you for that.
So much love here in the white positive sphere. That's why we are the white positive sphere, and all the others are just the white sympathetic spheres. Joseph, financially gifting $3, another great champion. Great to see you, brother, and thank you for those $3. The sister word to Hiraeth is Heimat, a place that you call home. Includes a sense of belonging and acceptance, safety, and connection to your people. This community is such a place. Well, that is beautiful. And thank you so much for that, Joseph. $3 and some education.
Yeah, I didn't know that, actually. So thank you for that.
Either did I. And a testimonial on top of it. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. And we have a final financial gift here on Entropy from the great and one and only Tall Kevin, financially gifting $3. Thank you, dear brother. Hiraeth, since you are a musician, what do you think about Michael Jackson? Do you think he was bad, real bad, or was some weirdo stuff going on and he should just beat it? Also, he writes, Nickelback rocks. Any thoughts?
Tall Kevin. Tall Kevin always has unique questions.
Yeah, I think he was probably bad. Maybe he should. I guess he did beat it in the long run. If that happened. So yeah. I don't really know what more to say about it. Catchy music, but I think it's something that a lot of us grew up on. But I do not avow it at this point in time.
We have one question in the question widget as well from the great Slots. He's asking here, Hiraeth Hiraeth set a bar for feminine music in the white positive struggle. She'll be referenced by white positive female artists in the future. Well, that's a wonderful thing to say, Slots, and I'm sure she will be. Any thoughts or response there, Hiraeth?
Just thank you so much. That really means a lot. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say, but I really appreciate that. Any support people give means a lot.
It does indeed. And thank you all for supporting our artists. Remember, folks, you do not have to make them rich. You're not responsible for that. A dollar here, $5 there, $20 here, a pat on the back if you don't have anything that you can give them financially, some good words, some support. It is very meaningful when we are creating art, we're creating content. You need to keep this in your mind at all times. We never support shame in service to white well-being. So we need to celebrate one another for our deeds in service to white well-being. There isn't any one person on any rostrum anywhere in the white positive sphere. We all are carried on each other's shoulders every time we do a great deed for our people in service to white well-being. So it has been a magnificent tap, as I expected. And let's get the final thoughts from our wonderful guest, Hiraeth, and where you can find her, what she'll be working on next, where you can find that magnificent music that we played a little bit of a little earlier. Hiraeth, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. And you could find me on Bandcamp. Like I said, if you search Hiraeth music on YouTube, it'll take you. I hate using YouTube, but it will take you to also on Linktree, Hiraeth music. I think on Twitter it's Hiraeth music 9, the number 9. I'm also on Telegram, and you can find my Linktree there, which is if you search Hiraeth music, it should come up as well for Telegram, and that'll give you everything as well. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I think as far as future projects, I want to try to maybe start doing some live streaming as far as playing a set, if I can get comfortable enough. I'm very stage fright, but and it would be very raw and stripped down because there's no backing vocals or all that, backing tracks and stuff. But I did get a new microphone, so I'm hoping that will encourage, maybe embolden me to do that. I'd like to try to get out of my comfort zone there. And that's another thing about community building, just to go back into that really quick, is putting wealth back into the community. So most of the money or actually all of the money that I make through my music either goes back into music or it goes into purchasing things from people within our sphere. And not that everybody should do that, because that's just a personal choice. But I do think it's really good to sort of put wealth back into the community as you're getting it in a way. It helps to build it, and it sort of encourages, and it's also just great stuff. Like, I will go ahead and just show this for a moment. Got folk book here. And like I said, a t-shirt from Skinless Frank, and then I got tea and coffee and a mug from Grandma Towlers. So just stuff like that. And, you know, I encourage people to do that. If you can't, it's understandable. Or, you know, maybe not everybody should do that, but I think that it's a good thing to do. And definitely check out White Art Collective D Live at 7:00, please. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
Mr. George.
How did it feel being maskless today, Hiraeth?
A little nerve-wracking at first, because I feel like I'm not like a TV personality type. I get very awkward and nervous feeling, but you guys are great, and you make it very comfortable. And I do think that it feels good in a way, because you get sick of hiding, and there's nothing to hide from. Like all of our views are totally normal, and there's nothing hateful going on. All I do is I want to encourage people to be their best selves, to be constructive, creative, and to work together. So there's really nothing wrong with that message, and there's no reason to hide from that. So
absolutely well said. Not very encouraging, but I'm still getting used to this 3 years on. So there you go. There you go. My site. I saw someone, Corey, thank you, Corey, in the chat saying he's getting used to going to content creators' websites. So thank you for that. Jason and I have individual sites, and we have a site together. Yes. So my site is thegreatorder.com. It is the catalog of everything that I do. And our shared site together is the afterparty.tv, which takes these streams, and they're all saved there for posterity. There are notes. If you go and listen and replay, for example, to today's show, Hiraeth, her links will be there. So if someone's like, oh, wow, I want to learn more about her, all the links will be there. You can listen to her first episode. Well, she's been on some of our celebration streams. Yep. Her first featured episode back last May, of 2020. So those are linked as well. Things are tagged by topics as well, of different things that we discussed in a given stream. So we really try to make it shareable. And there are some links to our peers as well, as Hiraeth was saying, some of our friends and peers who have different wares or services that they sell or offer. White Art Collective among them, of course, but many others. So exactly the kind of thing Hiraeth was saying. We have a page there where it's a little collection as well. So try to make those resources available for you. We do appreciate you liking and following and all that good stuff on social media, but please do bookmark our site, sign up for the mailing list. We do not send many mailings at all, but it's just a way for us to sometimes do a catch up, but it's more in an emergency. If all of our social media was nuked, it'd be a great way that we could stay in contact with you all. So please do keep that in mind. Anyway, Jason, please do us the honors and wrap up today's episode of The After Party.
The After Party, another magnificent episode. And of course, we have come to that point where we have to tap out. I want to thank everybody who financially gifted today. It is very meaningful, and we deeply appreciate it. Very thankful for everybody who participated in the live chat today, asking questions, interacting. And we invite you, if you are new to watching TAP, to participate. You can say hi, say hello. We are a welcoming community, and we are very different probably from communities that you have seen that you think, well, this is similar to something that I've seen before, maybe something I've learned from the media about. Don't listen to any of that. This is very different. We welcome you. You can continue to be a wallflower if you like, and you'll be lovely on the wall. But you can participate. We're building community, as Hiraeth was talking about here, and we want to continue to do so. Big thank you to Grayman the Gray for moderating today, and for everybody else who is doing great things in service to White Wellbeing. I've seen so many magnificent names. You know, it's really going to come down to, I was talking about this, I guess my final thought at the end of the show here, I was talking about this with a wonderful person in the outreach team. They're having some colossal success because they are not doing the childish groyping where they go in and they flip the script of something anti-white, and then they giggle to themselves, and everybody in those live chats or those threads gain nothing from that. Instead, they're going in there to live chats and to threads, and they are sowing the seeds of the lexicon of Go Free and the dialectics. And they have gotten Breitbart to turn off comments because so many people began using the lexicon of Go Free. They have come into comments and have screen captures of regular people, our brothers and sisters out there, ordinary folks, now using the lexicon of their own volition because they see the power in the lexicon. And that is truly the thing that we should be doing and have to be doing. And in that conversation that I was having with this person, we were talking about the reality that it's going to be, when they look back in history, they're going to say it was this small group of people that changed the world. And we will be those. Will you be among us? And on that note, I will have Hiraeth and Mr. George wave goodbye, and I will bring in the music that we did not hear, and the show will end at the end of that great music. So we look forward to seeing you all again next time.